Hey, what's going on? I am Seznate. This is the Seznate YouTube channel. Thanks for joining again. What a fucking couple weeks it's been in America, guys. An invasion in Minneapolis, a threatened invasion in Greenland, kidnapping of a president in Venezuela. We are on a wild trajectory right now, and I think the current situation is kind of being beaten to death. I don't need to talk about it a ton. What I really am interested in is talking about a united vision for after this. I think we are getting beaten down by this 24-hour news cycle, by this onslaught of ingressions on our rights, and this really terrifying, fascist regime that is beating down on us. And it's hard to spend time thinking about what a utopian vision for America would be. But I think because we don't have that shared vision, we're never gonna get to it, right? We don't have, the only shared community-driven platform we've had over the last 12 years is anti-Trump. Literally, that's all we've had. We've had a little bit push for universal healthcare with Bernie, but we have not had a united, progressive vision for America. And because of that, we've lost to people who did have a vision. They had Project 2025. It was well laid out. We don't have anything like that. We haven't had any of that work done by Democratic politicians. And so I've been working personally because I think there is a better path forward, and so much of it comes with a change in mindset. We can't keep playing in this stupid two-party system that isn't serving anyone. We need to start talking about constitutional amendments, sweeping tax changes, term limits, ending the electoral college. We need big changes because the current situation is not serving us, and it hasn't served us for a long time. And that's fine. The Constitution was written to be amended. It's built that way. And so we need to start having those discussions. This small ball bullshit is not going to get us where we need to be. And thankfully, Trump set a precedent and gave us a playbook to do so. Come in and start swinging. Executive orders. Challenge me in the fucking courts if you don't like what I'm doing. And just hammer, 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 hammer. You know what? If the Democrats grew a spine, they would do the same thing, but they won't, because they're complicit and they're complacent and they're capitulated. All three of those things. One or the other, some both. And so we need to build something new. And I've been working on that myself. I call it New American Capitalism. Maybe you've seen it. I've been posting a lot. I'm printing a ton of pamphlets. I'm going to be handing them out all over New York next month. I really believe, again, that we need a shared vision for a new America. And without that shared vision, it's going to be so easy to get us infighting, to get, progressives who disagree on one minor topic to not form a united front for big change. And I think in that virtue signaling, the hierarchy of liberalism and not allowing us to just be complex humans. I own AKs and I'm very pro drug use, and but I'm very liberal, but I'm very Second Amendment, and I'm very pro business, very, very pro business, very pro capitalism. I'm not a fan of socialism, just really regulated capitalism. And I'm a complex individual, and most people are, but we've been tricked into not being complex individuals, and that has undermined the progressive platform, the progressive movement, because if you don't do one thing that's not uber progressive, you're not kicked out, but you're not in the club, and then you got to start a different club. And so we have all these little movements happening, and it's not focused on the one big fucking problem. And so that's what I want to talk about today, is the one big fucking problem. And I think a lot of people in America would say that one big problem is racism and sexism. And bigotry in general, right? Let's throw it all into that bucket of bigotry, right? Racism, sexism, homophobia, nationalism, those kind of things. That's all one big bucket. And I would agree that you could argue that that's a root cause of everything that's going on in America. And I think that's fair. I think racism and sexism permeate everything in America. And obviously, if you're a woman or a person of color, you fucking already know that. I would argue, though, that they aren't necessarily the root cause. And here's why. I think in a world where people have very little opportunity, very little community, very little stability, very little education, when they live in poverty, when their health is threatened constantly, when they don't have good food to eat, I think in that state, it's much easier to grasp at the straws of bigotry, to be tempted by extremism, to give a solution, to give an answer for your current situation. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people and politicians who will gladly serve up all those things to the poor and the encumbered and those without opportunity and education. They'll serve those things up on a platter and say, yeah, it was the immigrants. It was the trans people who did this to you. And, you know, I think there's some things that are built into us, our lizard brains that make us racist and make us distrustful of people that are different. And I think in this subjugated mode that so many of us live in, where we don't know where our next, we don't know if we can live past our next paycheck. We can't get the health care we need. We are never going to buy a house, right? There's so little opportunity and so little future for so many Americans. Those people are the easy low-hanging fruit for extremist groups. And so my argument would be that fighting sexism, fighting for women's rights, fighting for civil rights for Black and brown Americans, for LGBTQ and trans people is like so important. We have to protect the weak and the different from the strong, and the strong have to protect them. Not everyone is born the same with the same opportunities. There is no pulling yourself up by the bootstraps if you're born with no legs. And so the people with no legs need help from the people who have legs. It's like libertarianism might be the biggest problem in America. That's a different story. But this subjugation of the American middle class, killing the middle class, pushing them all into poverty, that is the root cause of our situation in America, to me. And that is the thing we need a united front against. And to me, when you step back and you see the vicious cycle that this kleptocracy that we live in is causing, and I use the word kleptocracy not loosely, I mean it. We used to have a democracy for the people and by the people, and it has been stolen by billionaires. And now our government basically runs to serve billionaires and 100 millionaires and corporations and doesn't serve everyday people. That is the root cause of a lot of the problems we're having in America. You give people education, you give them opportunity, you give them healthcare and good food and safety and stability and community. Man, you don't see many racists, you don't see as many bigots when they got all those boxes checked. And I would also say in that situation, it's a lot easier to connect and meet with people and try to root out those dirty pieces and like get them out. It's hard. You can't do that hard work when everyone's fighting. And so, again, those two things I think that I've talked about are interrelated. One is that we need a shared vision, and two is that there's one major problem, and it's basically inequality, wealth gap, leading to a kleptocracy. There's too much wealth concentrated at the top, and that wealth has allowed those people to steal our fucking government from us. And we can't allow that to happen. Unfortunately, now we have to fight to get it back. And so what that requires is a new shared vision and a new shared, broad, big, sweeping vision. Again, playing small ball, passing trying to win the midterm. Yeah, we gotta do the work, but we gotta start talking fucking big. We need politicians who are willing to say, we need constitutional amendments. That's the new talking point. We are amending the fucking Constitution to fix this fucking country. We're passing sweeping tax changes. We're raising the corporate tax rate. We're like, I think we need to form a whole new branch of government called the Citizens Senate. That we need massive changes. What we have now is not working. And here's the really scary part, is that this is a cycle. As the rich steal our government, more and more pieces of our government are stolen and twisted to serve the rich. What does that do? It takes money and opportunity and community and stability and health out of the middle class and out of the poor and brings it in as wealth. Just absolutely excess wealth. That's the transfer, right? So it's a cycle, because as another piece of government is stolen, people are subjugated more. They're more in poverty, they have less opportunity. And guess what? Those people are easier to serve up extremist views. And they're gonna cling to them more. So the more the Republicans and honestly the Democrats too, the more Chuck Schumer and Pelosi fucking screw the American people, deny us healthcare, deny us the wealth that we build in this country, and allow it to continue to be siphoned off to a few people, well, guess what? That situation creates more extremism, and it also creates division within the progressive group, right? So like, we're so scattered. There's so many fronts to fight on that we're handicapped on all of them, and we're never gonna make big change. If you remember the Occupy Wall Street movement, that was a moment. We had something there. So many people, but what didn't we have? We didn't have a charismatic leader, and we didn't have one shared vision. We were saying, wealth inequality, that's bad. The people are too rich. We need fucking specific constitutional amendment demands. We need specific bills. We need a real fucking platform. We need our own Project 2025 for 2028. And let me tell you, Schumer, Pelosi, they're not fucking making it. So, what do? We start running for fucking office. People like you and me, people under 40 need to start running for office. Under 45, under 50, just not 80-year-olds. We need to get these fuckers out. If they're not gonna play ball with us, we need to get them the fuck out. Second, we need to start talking big. No more of this. We need to win this back and forth of this two-party thing of like, our goals have been so small. Bernie Sanders is the only one who's really brought about large-scale vision for change. And even that was limited because he knows that you can't fight this really wide fight. But I think it's time we start fighting the wide fight. Trump gave us a pathway. And there is a mobilization of the progressives here. And so I said this years ago, the one good thing that might come out of Trump is that it could lead us to revolution. And that revolution could take us back to a real democracy where the middle class has the fucking power. Because that's what a democracy should be. The middle class that represents 60-70% of the people in America, all from diverse backgrounds, they should be the biggest voting bloc in America. And it was heading before the 80s, those were all union jobs. You know, those are good jobs. Most of those people are Democratic voters, right? And they saw as that middle class grew in wealth and they got more educated, they're not gonna be voting Republican anymore as much. And so this like conspiratorial, they're trying to take away our education, they're trying to keep us down. They fucking are, man. They fucking are. They have been. And I hope you guys can see it now. They wouldn't be proposing to send $100,000 to every Greenlander. They wouldn't be dropping $40 billion in Venezuela. They wouldn't be, they wouldn't be dumping hundreds of billion dollars into ICE and then saying we can't pay for healthcare if it wasn't all a fucking lie. They want us poor. They want us sick. They want us stupid, and they want us divided. And we simply can't do it anymore. Unified vision, central voice. We need a shared vision for a new utopian America. And I'm trying to at least provide the not foundation, but let's just start the conversation. I put my money where my mouth is, and I say, this is what I think a 100-day plan for a new presidency should look like, and here's the broad goals for a presidency. I call it New American Capitalism. I think democratic socialism needs a rebrand, personally. I honestly don't necessarily like a bunch of money moving through the government if it's our money, you know. I like New American Capitalism. I don't necessarily love socialism. I don't really want to give our government that much power. I just want to give them the power to regulate wealth and regulate industry. So yeah, I'm trying. I want to start this conversation because, like I'm saying, there's so much I think that is important that just happens in here. We got to mentally prepare and decide how much we're willing to sacrifice for this country and for our freedoms. We need to really get over the hump of saying, man, this could go really sideways and we might have to really fight it out. And what does that look like? And are we willing to do so? And are we prepared to do so? And then we need to actually start having real conversations about fixing this fucking country, guys. We can't sit back and hope that the people we vote into office are going to fix it for us. We need a more active, integrated public. We need to build a democracy that allows our public to be reintegrated into it. We have to fix our fucking government, folks. That's all I got for you. I'll see you next time.